Jeff, good to see you as always, and thanks for taking a bit of time out to come and have a chat with me. I appreciate the time differences because you're down under. The time's probably horrible there, but I appreciate you making the effort to come and have a chat with us. So, just to kick off the conversation, I mean, you've got a really interesting business. So, I mean, just tell people about the mission. What is it you're trying to do?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And time's not too bad. And one of the things that I got used to pretty quick when I moved to Australia is just the normal days will just not happen anymore. Because my vision for the Laughing Otter is a global one. It's not limited to Australia. And as a result, I have conversations at every possible hour of the clock.
Yeah.
So now, to let you know what Laughing Otter is all about, we've talked about this a bit in the past, but I started a multimedia and an entertainment and events company about 4 years ago with one simple goal, and that was to make the world a happier place and give people reasons to have more fun, to connect, to combat all the negative stimulus that we get every single day and give reasons people to laugh and have
Yeah.
fun and just enjoy life. And so it seems like a rather trivial thing to say, but with in today's climate, people are getting torn apart.
Yeah.
There's so much divisive conversations going on. There's an explosion of hate conversations coming. So I'm hoping the Laughing Otter is a reminder that, everybody's pretty good and your neighbors are pretty good, decent people. And we should all be having a lot more fun.
Yeah, and we can all rub along fine, can't we, if we make the effort? I mean, I think it's a brilliant idea, Jeff. I mean, I said that to you before. Um, tell me, I mean, just tell me about the moment though when you thought we could do something global here, because I know this idea of having fun. I mean, lots of people would buy into that. Most of my mates would, that's for certain. But this idea that you could turn it into a global, have a global impact with this. I mean, just tell us about that moment. When did that kind of percolate through?
Uh, there wasn't a watershed moment. It's probably when I was 3, 4 years old, listening to my dad and mom and my uncles talk about business. They always talk big. And then I grew up in the world of like I did my MBA in 2000. I graduated, so I was right at the heart of the this new .com wave, and I've been involved in a number of product projects that are all tech online based. So I know that it's really easy to scale. And one of the wonderful things about the internet, and it gets a lot of flack, but one of the great things about the internet and the online world is you can build something really, really big very, very quickly with really minimal investment. It used to be that if you wanted a global business, you basically you needed to build warehouses and factories and logistics all over the world.
That's changed.
Whereas, yeah, with the Laughing Otter, we had an event in LA that reached 40 million people, and and we're just leveraging the the world of the internet, and that allowed now, because the Laughing Otter is a hybrid business. um it allows me to reach out and hold events all over the world and connect with people all over the world very easily, so that I can have that momentum before we even start something. So I don't think that there was never really a thought, well, let's go global. It was, of course, I'm going global. Like that. Why start it? Like it's just not my mentality to go. It's if I wasn't thinking big, it wouldn't be worth all the pain that I go through.
Yeah,
On
yeah, no,
16 hours.
absolutely. I totally get that. And let me ask you, in terms of, you realize that this could have this, we could do this globally. And of course, the internet and things like Zoom and the technology all facilitates that, doesn't it? But what was the kind of, when you were starting out, what was the crux problem that you thought, this is the thing, this is the nut I'm going to have to crack to make the business successful? And what was that thing?
Um, the biggest challenge, and it still is cutting through the noise.
Yeah.
Be like people like with all the great opportunities the internet and how easy you can get in the game, and with technology and how you can reach people very easily. That also means that there's hundreds of millions of others who can do the same.
Yeah. So you're
And
in
the
a big pond.
difficulty is, yeah, like it's a bit of a uh, chicken and egg thing. And so when you're an entertainment company, an events company, there's an everybody from Disney to professional sports to rock bands and whatever, they all find the same challenges nowadays. um, Everybody has almost an infinite amount of entertainment options, and where they consume their content and where they want to spend their money. So that's the challenge, is
And I
to.
mean, that I can totally see that. How did you then overcome that? Because the interesting thing, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a billion businesses that could do it. How did you find a way to stand out from all the noise? I mean, just tell us about how you did that.
Right. Okay. So the um one, I have a knack for. Just got to stop playing with that. I'm going to ruin the podcast. Um, I'm one of those fidgeters that like to have toys in my hands. But um, the I guess I guess a few ways is one, from just being involved in startups my whole life and around bits businesses of various sizes, and always in a sales capacity. I know the value of just keep bashing down doors.
Yeah.
And so that, like, just keep the wheels turning constantly, have one more conversation. And then that lends itself then to, I've been able to do a lot bigger things early on because I found strategic partners. I
Okay.
find people who already have big audiences, and then I do things together. Like if you look over my shoulder, we did like I mentioned, a guitar event in LA. We had a famous artist come in and do a live painting. That's what he painted. That's one of the prints. He had a big following. All the guitarists had a minimum of 1 million followers on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. So by putting it all together, all of a sudden the reach reaches 40, 50 million people. But I couldn't do that alone. It's having that entrepreneurial desire to have conversations with people, and then the open-mindedness to go, actually, we could really do something together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And that's
lots of people that I've spoken to have talked about the importance of finding great partners. Which again is easier said than done, but I totally get the logic for it. I mean, your business is a big success now. Well, I think it's a big success. Um, I mean, were there moments when you thought maybe this isn't going to work? Where it all could have gone horribly wrong. I mean, have you ever had any sort of times when you think this could turn out the other way?
I think I don't know about anybody else who started a business, but you have you have that. It's 1 minute of thinking, why in the hell am I doing this? This is all going to hell in a handbasket, and then 1 minute of being excited.
Yeah.
I tell people, uh, when you're a founder and you're starting something, you got two reasons why you don't sleep at night. One, because you don't know how you're going to keep it going the next day, and the other reason is you're staring at the ceiling, smiling because you can't believe how fun and exciting it is. So
Yeah.
as a result, you just don't sleep at night. Because you're and it's it really is like, I've talked to many founders on this, and the media, like all of the, you go to conferences and the keynote speakers, they all like to make it sound like the movies where there was one watershed moment of brilliance and it changes everything
Not
and
really
what.
like that, is it?
No, what it is you wake up every day and you pull a lever and you look around and you go, okay, what happened? Okay, now let's pull another lever. And you do that time and time and time again. And when you're starting out, you get punched in the head 100 times for every one you land, but you just keep getting up. And then eventually you land two punches and you take 98 in the head. And eventually, I'd like to get it at least 50-50 soon, but that's just a reality. Like it's not like successful people aren't geniuses. I've never met a successful person that's a genius that, people like to talk about people like Musk and stuff. They timing, luck, money, all factor in. And he makes 100 good decisions. He makes 100, and maybe he makes 99 bad decisions, or vice. And it's just in the aggregate, it just works out, and something falls into place. And so you just all you keep telling yourself is, especially in the early days, is you keep going.
Yeah. There's a
The
famous.
analogy I
Go on, sorry.
I used an analogy to explain it to someone once, and was that really made sense to me. Was it's like being in the middle, like in the middle of the ocean, treading water, and you're so tired, all you want to do is quit. But the only option worse than quitting, or the only option worse than keeping going, is quitting, because
Mm.
then it's all over and you
Yeah.
sink to the bottom.
Yeah, there's a lovely, I think it's Churchill said, success is about going from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm, which I thought was a lovely quote, actually. Let
Yeah.
me ask you another question about this. I mean, have you, I mean, it's about the flip side to the last question. Have you ever wished, when you look back, you think, I wish I'd been a bit bolder? Wish I'd kind of pushed the boat out a bit more? I mean, you have pushed the boat out quite a lot, I know, because we've spoken about that. But have you ever,
uh,
I wish I'd been bolder?
yeah, probably. I wish I'd been bolder uh, when I was 19, 20.
Right.
That like that's probably when I wish I was bolder. But I talked to somebody about this. Actually, he happened to be a psychiatrist. So I don't know, we just got, because of the laughing R. I deal with a lot with mental health and stuff, and we were talking about just regrets, and everybody looks back and everybody has them, um, and he said it's completely unfair, and for whatever reason, the human brain loves to do this, because no at any given time you made that decision in that moment, armed with all the knowledge you had of that day, and you made the best decision you could at that time for who you are. And maybe, like maybe that decision when you were 19 is, or now I look back and go, geez, why I should have been bolder. But if I'm really honest with myself, when I was 19, I didn't want to be bold. I wanted to go to the pub.
Yeah.
So, like I was a university kid. I just wanted to, go to the clubs and hang out with my mates and talk to girls and all that kind of fun stuff and listen to music and
I guess
that
if you
sort of
wanted to
thing.
be bolder, you would have been bolder, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And yeah, and in a lot of ways too, like I've been around startups a lot in my life and all that kind of stuff. And it's been romanticized a lot, especially for kids. And now I see a lot of kids that I scratch my head and go, yeah, it's great what you're doing, but when was the last time you actually had fun? The
Mm.
last time you actually laughed? Like, because as much as, maybe my career would have been different, but God, I got great memories.
Yeah.
Like we got, my mates, we tell stories that like a lot of people would be the biggest night of their or biggest day of their life or whatever, and we talk about it, and half of us have forgotten that because we have 30 or 3,000 other ones.
Yeah.
So it's there's a mixture that I like, and I fight it because I don't fight it. It's an interesting little world that I live in because I've become so cognitive about how this messaging of success is really hurting a lot of people, like depression, anxiety, suicides. It's all through the roof right now.
Mm.
And yet I still am, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family where my parents, my uncles, my brother, everybody had their own businesses. I'm an MBA. Like and I love business. I love growing things. But I also so I'm in this two worlds a lot where I love what I'm doing and I love all that, but I also know that's not the be all
No,
to a life of happiness.
no, no, that's a really important point, I think. I mean, success is great,
Yeah.
and if you want it, it's great until you don't get it, and it's maybe not so good, and a lot of people
Well,
don't get it,
that
which causes all sorts of problems, doesn't it?
yeah, well, it's like we all look at the people, like we all look at the successes, but for every $100 million company or even a $20 million company, there's I don't know the math of this arbitrary number. There's 5,000, 10,000 people who have lost everything
Yeah,
and invested 4 or 5 years because I've been involved in failures. Like it's a horrible thing.
yeah, absolutely.
And
And you,
and
you talked a bit earlier on about the kind of sleepless night thing. Lots of
yeah,
CEOs have talked to me about that component of the job, if you like. And I mean, what's your take on the role of the CEO? I mean, what are the bits that you get a lot out of? I mean, you've touched on the sleepless nights, which presumably you don't enjoy, but I mean, what to give us your take on the role of the CEO? I mean, what are the bits, for example, that you find most challenging?
most challenging because I'm at the end of the day I am the captain of the ship. Um, it's just it's the never ending stress of keeping the doors open
Yeah,
like that. That's other than that, but that's offset with the the great part about it is I love having the authority to make 100% of the decisions. And well, ultimately, like I don't I let my staff and people who like in the team make decisions all the time until I need to make a decision. And
mm,
I like that. And I love the creative science of business.
mm.
That's the part I love.
When you say creative
And
science, just tell us what you mean by that.
just there's maybe science is wrong. Just the creativity of it.
Mm.
Like it's the laughing otter is my canvas. If I want to paint it blue, I paint it blue. If I want to paint it red, I paint it red. And if I want to hold an event because I love it, let's do it. If it's I like having that authority. And I one of the things that in my career when I was working for other people, and I know everybody says this, so it's going to come off as being a bit of a goofball, but I worked for some people that were pretty stupid. And I got really tired of having to explain things.
Yeah,
Um, and and I hated the conversation of no matter how many ways I showed it on the whiteboard that this is a wrong decision, and then 6 months down the road, having to answer the question, well, why didn't we hit target? Because all the reasons I told you 6 months ago that you wouldn't listen to because you were so pig-headed. That so as a CEO, I think what is the like when you ask what's the role of the CEO? The role of the CEO is to make decisions. And But the role of the CEO is also to have the courage to make decisions.
Yeah.
Because I've worked for people who love the title, love the position, love the authority, but couldn't, but hated actually making a decision. So I think that's the part I love the most.
Yeah, it's
I love
interesting
the
you say that. It's interesting you say that. I was talking to somebody the other day who said that they felt that their job as the CEO was to piss people off, because and the point was, I can't make everybody happy. I've got to make sure that the people that need to be pissed off are pissed off, and the people that are happy are happy. And he was sort of talking about the kind of 70-30 thing, the Pareto thing, where there's a small group of people that you need to get it right for, that everybody else can go to hell, was his view, which I thought it's a bit similar to what you're saying. You've got to make decisions, and sometimes people won't like that, will they?
right. Yeah, I don't think I would go that far because um, yeah, I don't know his situation, so I don't want to comment on that. But I actually have had the opposite experience where I had 75 staff in my last job, and I never pissed anybody off.
Right.
And and we had a really bad product. My first 3 months was getting on an airplane and going to customers and getting yelled at for 2 hours. Actually, my last two jobs were like that, where I took over messes and had to clean them up. And there is a way. You quoted her. My dad used to have a thing over his desk that it was. I've seen it elsewhere since, but it's um, like the I can't remember exactly. It's something like customer service is the ability to tell people to go to hell and they look forward to the trip.
Yeah.
And I'm more that kind of leader where
That's always an impressive skill when people can do that, I think.
yeah, well that's like I turned around a lot of really angry customers by just being open and honest and telling them the truth where some of my predecessors maybe weren't so forthcoming with the truth. And so nobody can yell at you. It diffuses everything when you just go, yeah, you're right. Okay, so where do we go from here?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you about being straight with people. I mean, I think that's just a much better strategy, really. Let me ask you another
Yeah,
question about the role of the CEO. I mean, one of the interesting cliches you hear is, you shouldn't spend too much time working in the business. You need to work on the business. Have you come across that cliche?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, what's your
It's
take on that? I mean, how much time do you spend working in the business, and how much time do you spend working on the business and the kind of development of it? I mean, give us.
I I think that when until you get to a certain size, that line is pretty blurry because it's just a resource reality that things need to get done, and sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves
It's done.
and just start swinging the hammer, if you will. But I'm always willing to do that. But that said, I don't know if it's a product of efficiency or a product of laziness or a product of whatever the reason is. I'm the antithesis of a micromanager, like complete polar opposite. I trust my people to just get the work done. And in fact, like on that kind of point, the first thing when I hear uh, a manager or a CEO or an owner who's got an established team and that I'm just really busy. I'm busy. I can't. My first question to them is, how many places do you got your nose where you don't need it to be?
Mm.
How many meetings are you having for no reason whatsoever?
They're too in the business, aren't they? To come back to the cliche.
Yeah, well, there's an ego to that. There's people love having their team around them, and I get that. Like I'm no different. It feels good to have that, but I learned very early it's a great big waste of time. I have hardly any regularly scheduled meetings. I have meetings as needed, ad hoc, to talk about.
That was your picture
Ooh,
from the wall. Anyway,
that
sorry.
worked well.
Carry
Good
on.
timing. Well, it's good for the blooper reel. But yeah, the having regularly scheduled meetings, for example, is most of the time is a waste of time. Like, and I got this from my weekly because I grew up as and from the sales side of things, the weekly sales meeting. What an insanely expensive waste of time to have all of your most expensive people in a room for an hour for no other reason than to just pad egos of the sales manager and give him a reason for being. And then everybody walks out and does exactly the same thing they would have done an hour earlier if they hadn't wasted an hour of their time. They go and they call the customers that they were going to call. But now they have an hour less time, and you've just spent, like yeah, 10 of your most expensive employees doing nothing.
Mm.
And so instead, I meet with because I'm more B2C now, just online. But when I had sales teams, I knew who was doing well and who wasn't. I would have one-on-one meetings ad hoc with the ones that I needed to have a chat with, or if I needed to talk about a specific account or something. The rest of the team doesn't have to sit there twiddling their thumbs, listening to that conversation. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. No, I get that.
and
Go on.
it may be different. Like, I don't know. I've never worked for a great big Fortune 500 company with a big sales. That maybe that's different. I don't know, but I know in the startup world, regularly scheduled meetings are an insane waste of time, and because what are you talking about that you don't already know the answer to? And if you don't know the answer to, talk to just the people
Mm.
who have the answer.
Sure. Sure. I mean, one of the other things that comes up around the role of the CEO is the fact that, I mean, lots of CEOs, I say, do you make a lot of mistakes? And they'll tell you every day. I mean, what's your take on the issue of mistakes and things going wrong and how you deal with that? And more important, the other question always interests me is, have you ever made a mistake that has actually proved to be a really valuable thing in the longer term? What's your take on those?
Uh, this like this may be um, I don't think anybody makes mistakes, and I don't think anybody makes the right decision. I think it's just it's some variation. Nothing ever works out perfect, and nothing ever works out catastrophically bad. There's always It's always based on some level of knowledge. You take everything is a theoretical guess. You're armed with the knowledge you have, and you take a guess, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It's not really a mistake in that. Yeah, I don't really look at it like that. I make the best decisions I can at the time, and sometimes they're really, really good outcomes. Sometimes they're not so good outcomes. And sometimes they're rather bad outcomes, but like, it's never like a complete catastrophic failure. Stupid. This is, oh my God, how did you do that? It's if you're making decisions based on some sort of logical um, assumptions, then you're probably not going to make huge mistakes. And if and the rare case, I guess there would be times, but like I can't remember if it was being recorded at the time, but we were talking about how business just is just pulling a series of levers and seeing what happens. And
Yeah.
if you, I guess now I'm thinking this through, what where the real mistake is not being honest to the outcomes. Like, when you pull that lever and you go, oh, geez, I shouldn't have done that. Well, then change. Or you're trying something and it's not working. The mistake is not changing and being stubborn and going, no, the customers have to learn this. I'm so brilliant. My idea is so great. I got to keep doing the same thing. That's the mistake. But even that, I have one war cry, and that is, or one of about 3 or 4 war cries is, the only thing that we can do wrong is nothing.
Mm.
Because that's the biggest mistake that people do, is they are so afraid of making a mistake, they don't do anything.
Mm.
And so all of a sudden the month's gone and nothing has changed. Whereas the follow on from that is, let's just do a whole bunch of things today, and tomorrow will be better than we were today. And by the end of the month, we'll be 30 days better than we were today. But if we sit around having meetings talking about what we should do, that's a mistake.
But it also, I mean, I agree with that. But that also implies that you need to spend some time reflecting on those outcomes and with how well they worked and what you can learn from them, but both what's been
Yeah.
successful and what hasn't been. I mean, it also implies an element of reflection and consideration.
Yeah. Again, in the fast moving startup world, and like smaller environments, um, that reflection happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I'm
you
not
don't
saying it
have
can't happen
to.
quickly. I'm saying it has to happen though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think any entrepreneur or any CEO worth his salt, is that's a skill that they have.
Yeah.
If you can't assess what's going on very quickly, you you're probably in the wrong position.
It's actually, it's a very good point you've made there. I think that's one of the things that sets apart people in that world because they're very quick to work out what's worked and what hasn't worked and what they need to do differently. And I think that's actually a really powerful skill because because if you don't sort it out quickly and you're a small business, I mean, you run into all sorts of bigger problems if you
But
don't quickly.
but it's even like, I read an article a few years back where they interviewed a bunch of Fortune 500 CEOs, so the biggest companies in the world. And one of the questions was, well, the basic crux of the study was, how much do you use numbers and how much do you use gut feel when making decisions? And they all said about 80% of it is gut feel. And
Mm.
I'm the same way. And it's not that you're going into it blind. It's just, you live and breathe this business.
Mm.
So you know every moving part that's going on, like you know everything. So when something happens, it's not that hard to kind of figure out why,
Mm.
good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you about one of the other things that interests me about your business is because you're concerned about people having fun, people having a laugh, which I think is a great thing. I mean, it's something that we need to do more of. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Um, that's the thing that's interesting about that is that at a global scale, I mean, having fun in LA probably very different from having fun in Rome. You know, the kind of cultural thing that sort of sits around what how people perceive having a good time. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, those kind of cultural nuances working in lots of different jurisdictions, different kind of cultures and cultures and
I don't believe there is.
go on.
I've 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 traveled all over the world, and the biggest thing I've found in difference in people is nothing. Everybody is exactly the same in every country I've lived in, and every country I've visited. Um, the like I'm a drummer. Every popular song in every single country is roughly about 120 beats per minute, which is roughly the same as what your heart rate is, or what the heart rate is when you're in your mom's womb. That's the theory behind it anyway. But there's a reason. Like, I'll tell you a little story. Um, as a drummer, I grew up in I was high school, all that. So I was a classic rock, heavy metal, grunge, all that kind of music. Still am. And when I travel, I always try to find a bar that's playing that kind of music,
Right.
because it's just something. Just a common thing I share. And everywhere I've been, it hasn't been. It's been the same vibe. Whether it was Korea, Japan, I'm in India. I was some locals said, "Come with us. We know where you want to go." And they we downstairs, and they were the this whole room of people listening to Iron Maiden and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all the stuff I love, but they loved it just like I did.
Yeah.
So this 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 focus that we have that somehow we're different is is a, it's a great big mistake.
So what you're
And
saying, let me correct that. So
people,
what you're saying is there's more that unites us than divides us.
oh, like absolutely, like there's, in fact, it's even even that's getting less and less and less as like my wife's Mauritian. We like Mauritius is a perfect little microcosm of the world where you eat a regular meal would be an Indian curry with some Chinese noodles and a baguette, because so many different countries had settled there. But that's what our dinners are like. Growing up in Canada, that's exactly. People go, "What was the Canadian food?" Well, a little Italian, my background, German, Austrian, some British. Then we had pizza from and spaghetti from Italy, tacos from Mexico. Like there, this idea that we're somehow different, I don't buy it. Everybody's doing the same thing. In the UK, you're drinking like Kilkenny or something like that, and watching Premier League soccer. In Canada, we'll be drinking Molson Labatt's and watching hockey. In the States, you're drinking
Yeah.
Budweiser and watching football. Like it's all the same. Like and you know what the conversation we're having? I need. I wish I'd make like we're bitching about mortgages, taxes. We hate our government, and we need to be working less. And that's every country in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I
it's
certainly have some sympathy with that, having travelled and done the same thing. I mean, I totally get that.
yeah.
Let me ask you about
And
the way your business is developed. I mean, obviously you started it in Australia. I mean, has it evolved a lot? I mean, given what you've just said, has it evolved as you've gone into different countries and different parts of the world?
um, it hasn't evolved because of that, for the reasons we just talked about. Where it's evolved is uh, my idea. Where the business started? It was it was an online TESOL course.
Right.
Uh, but after about 2 weeks after I started it, I got everything set up and ready to go. A little thing called COVID hit, and nobody was traveling anymore. And then I started going, well, this is a good time for all online courses. So I started putting all these together, and then I realized, well, that market is way too saturated. There's too many big players, and there's too much free stuff on the internet. So then it was like, well, how about if I just lots of things to make people improve and feel better about themselves. So then I started building positive content. And then it was like, well, why don't I make that even more content and more of a media and put some events? And then I just met people along the way, and it's just evolved now. And now the vision is very close to what Disney was 30 years ago, where it's just a little something for everyone across all borders. And it's interesting. My first investor is a guy that I did my MBA with, and when a couple months into what I was doing, when it was kind of heading the direction it is now, we just caught up, and we were just had a Zoom call, like how life been for the last 20 years, kind of thing. And he asked me what I was up to, and I told him. I said, well, I've just started a business. I've decided to go on my own. He goes, I'm in, because he made a bit of money with a couple of exits. He goes, I'm in. I go, what do you mean you're in? Well, I want to invest. Okay. I said, well, do you want a business plan or anything? And he goes, I know you. He says, you're good at what you do. And I also know that you're good enough at what you do that whatever business plan you give me today, it better not be the business plan I see in 6 months.
Mm.
Because if you're not changing enough, and he goes, I know you'll change the business. Everything that you tell me today is going to have no bearing on what your business is 6 months from now, which was the truth. And it still is the truth.
Mm.
And so I laugh at with VCs and that when you see a pitch night and stuff like that, and everybody's lapping it up. And I'm going, if that company is the same as it is today, or in a year as it is today, it will have gone under.
I
And
mean, I think
so,
a lot of people don't understand that one of the critical things in the when you're growing a business is the ability to adapt and change
yeah.
and adjust to different circumstances. I mean, that's absolutely critical. It comes back to our earlier point about the role of the CEO and trying to work out what needs to change and what mustn't change. I mean, there's always a challenge, I think.
And one of the things it's when people look at change, they for a lot of people it invokes it almost has a negative connotation, which is, oh, I better change because I'm not getting enough customers or something bad, like it's not working out. But the reality is, there's just if you have a narrow-minded view of what your business and your vision is, you're also leaving a lot of money on the table by ignoring opportunities.
Mm.
I had this, like, I've stopped about 2 years ago talking to VCs because it's just not worth my time. And one of the last conversations I had was with one of them trying to convince me that I need to define myself. I'm like, what a dumb thing that is. Why would I do that? Why would I close the door on opportunities just so it's easier for you to understand what I do? Whereas by calling myself a multimedia entertainment and event company, tomorrow, if I meet the right person and they say, hey, we got 100,000 followers on our basket weaving page, my initial thought would be, we really need to have a basket weaving event.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
It opens the door, doesn't it? Really. I mean, the other thing I really like about the things that you when we've talked. I mean, one of the things that I was really impressed by was that you decided that your main competitor was the Disney, Disney, one of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, where did that idea come from to kind of go head to head with Disney? Just tell us about.
okay. I think you're giving me a bit more credit than I deserve there. I don't I don't view them as a competitor.
Right.
I view them more as a business model that helps people understand what I'm doing, because everybody knows who Disney is.
Yeah.
It's more just an explanation thing. I'll be honest. In my whole career in sales and that one, and I used to do pretty well. I I never once thought about competitors. I did like I think people who focus on their competitors are like, it's just there's no value. I spend all my time promoting what I do, and if there's a competitor, well, there's a competitor. But in my mind, my competitors are almost um, infinite. It's where are you getting your content? Where are you where are you spending your time when you're not working or sleeping or looking after your kids? And where are you spending your entertainment dollars? Is it, are you playing a mobile game? We launched that. Are you reading a book? Are you on social media? Are you on websites? Do you go to concerts, or do you go to sporting events? Do you go to musical theater? Do you go to restaurants? All of these things are competitors. So I just try to focus on individual, like, or each thing that I do, much in the same way. Again, it's easy to explain. Just like Disney does it,
Mm.
they market their cruises different than their amusement parks, than their ice hockey team. They wouldn't say that for ticket sales to the Anaheim Ducks, the ice hockey team, they wouldn't look at Carnival Cruises
Yeah.
as a competitor,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean, or or Club Med as a competitor. But there, so that's kind of more I look at it. And I never, maybe like the vision is there to be as big as Disney. Like probably won't happen in my lifetime, but it'd be nice to hand it off to my son and he takes it to that degree. But I think there's an opportunity that I think there is a void. There's definitely a void of that needs to be filled for good, honest, wholesome, not wholesome, that's wholesome, just everyday entertainment. That's not preachy. It's just fun for the everyday person, a little something for everybody.
Yeah, no, I totally
Is
get that.
that
I
that
think the thing about being obsessed with competitors is unhealthy because you divert time and energy away from looking at the opportunities. I mean, there's always hundreds of
yeah,
opportunities.
and if oh, I always told my sales team, why are you bothering? And the minute like if somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, we're better than ABC microphones," because in my face there, um, we're better than ABC microphones. Okay, great. Let me take your quote. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to Google ABC microphones, and now you've just brought the competitor into the game.
Mm,
Where you don't, if you don't talk about them, they probably don't even know who they are.
yeah. So
So,
let me ask you a few more questions before we wind up. I mean,
sure.
you've got, I mean, I think it's a great business. I'm jealous actually with your business. I think it's lovely. What would you say your biggest achievements are?
Uh this I don't know if it's um growing up in small town northern Ontario. I just don't think like that. I I just do what I do, and I get the job done, and that's what I'm supposed to do. If I were to pick any achievement that I would actually say I'm proud of, which is I don't think I've ever said those words in my life, and that's not because I don't like myself. It's just I'm, I'm just me. Why would I be proud of just me? But the one thing I would be proud of is I have a really great group of friends and family that I've amassed over the years. And so I think by just by association, I must be a pretty good person too. And and the other thing I'm probably most proud of is I have never compromised my integrity and my morals and my ethics. I could have been retired a lot wealthier a long time ago had um had I taken the easy road.
Mm.
And I've never ever done that. And there's some people in my network that would agree. It's it's a lot easier to do business if you're dishonest than it is if you're honest. And maintaining that integrity is tough. And that's why I don't really like when people like Bezos and Musk and all those get heralded the way that they do, because they haven't always acted ethically. They haven't always acted in the best interest of right and wrong. So that's probably the two things, my greatest achievements, I would say.
Cool. I mean, and well said. Anything that anything that you know now that you wish that you'd known when you started?
Do we have 4 or 5 hours?
Just give us the
Uh,
highlight.
yeah, but I was talking to my brother the other day, and he was the CEO of quite a successful company and sold off, and he's been semi-retired for a long time. And we were just talking, and you know how it came up. You know how people say, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Well, we both agreed if I had to do it all over again, I'd change every single decision I made,
Right.
because like of course it's an infinite amount of things that
Mm.
Um, Probably if I were to name one, um, I the biggest mistake I made in my career is I stayed loyal to some really awful people, and I should have left their companies a lot earlier.
Mm.
That's my biggest regret. But that's it is what it is. Um,
Yeah,
I can do what I
hindsight's a
do
good thing, isn't
today.
it?
Yeah, and one of the things is I know from the feedback that I get from people, I know that I'm really good to work for. And I've had the growth officer for a $3 billion company tell me that I create high performing culture better than anyone she's ever seen in her life. I get comments like that all the time, and you learn a lot of that. You learn a lot from like they're like mentors and people who you go, oh, gee, that's a good way to do things. You also learn a lot from working for people and working with people who are pretty garbage. And you go, I never want to be like that. I never want to ever lead like that. Or actually, in most cases, it was I've always want to be a better leader than that.
Mm. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And any advice you would give to, or what would your advice be to somebody starting out on a journey like yours?
Um, the just I guess the biggest one, if you really want to start your own business, don't try to plan it from now until you retire. Like it's not like that. Just what you do is you do everything you can today, and then you wake up tomorrow and you do everything you can to do tomorrow, and it's just an infinite amount of little steps, and eventually you'll get there. If you just keep the wheels moving, you'll get there, or you won't. And guess what? The world doesn't end. Doesn't mean you're stupid, doesn't mean you're a failure. And if you are successful, doesn't mean you're a genius. It's just there's an infinite amount of variables. Don't try to plan it, and never forget this is your life. There is no, if I get to this point, I'm going to be happy. That's a really horrible message that gets drilled into people these days.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
When I become this, I will be happy. No, be happy today.
Yeah.
Stop and smell the roses as you're doing it. Have a laugh, have fun. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, you know what? They don't have debtor's prison anymore.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
I like John Lennon famously said, life is what happens when you're planning to do something else, and I think that's a very good way to look at it. Today is what matters.
Yeah,
You know. So,
yeah.
a couple of other quick things just before we wind up. So, in terms of, I mean, I know I mean, you've been very successful, but I know you've got other ambitions. I mean, tell us about the exciting stuff that's on the horizon in the next few months. I mean, tell us about the stuff that's happening.
Well, the actually right now is it's really exciting. It's the over the next couple of months we got a bunch of really fun events happening. There's we just launched our so the events that are happening more a lot of them are more here in Melbourne. We got um, an AFL footy thing with the Hawthorn Hawks. We're gonna have 1,000 of their fans together for a big celebration. It's their 100-year anniversary,
Wow.
so we're doing that. We got a comedy show. We got a group of bands that we're putting together for what we're calling Otterly Rockin'. That's it's it's if you like your heavy rock music,
Right.
that would be a good day. Um, this is an example of how I like to be flexible. But in October, Canada's playing Australia in football or soccer. So we're having an event for that. We'll probably do the same one. My mate owns a bar in Canada, so we'll get the Aussies and Canadians out to his place as well. So that's fun. We just launched a mobile game. It's called Reef Racer. It's on iOS and Android and itch.io. So you can play that. That just launched. That's pretty cool. It's the otter basically swimming through the ocean and trying to stay alive. The what else we got? We got, well, that painting that is felt now. We got working with that artist. We're selling a bunch of exclusive merchandise that 30% is going to charities. That's always part of everything that I do is giving back. We're working with another guy in the States to help an orphanage out in Africa, in Uganda. I've been helping them for a few years, but now another guy wants to really, we're looking at a way to build them, buy them some land and build them a their own permanent house, and they can grow their own food and stuff. So that's going to really help them out. Um, and then you know what? If you ask me tomorrow, there'll be something else new because it's constantly changing,
Which
and
is
I
what
just
makes
meet
it fun.
people.
It's one of the things that makes it fun, I think, the fact that there's always stuff happening.
Oh yeah, and what makes it fun is I get to decide what is fun. That's the beauty of the CEO. Like I'm probably not going to do an event on um, like a Coldplay event or something like that because I don't want to. So I don't have to. That's the beauty of being a CEO.
Yeah, yeah.
So
One,
yeah.
one, one last question, which is really about, I mean, it kind of chimes with the thing that's happening in the future. I mean, what's your take? I mean, and what's behind the question is the impact that AI is having on pretty much every industry that I've come across. What's your take on the way, I mean, the way that your industry, not so much your company necessarily, but your industry, in what way will that be influenced by AI? How might that influence the way that that world evolves?
Uh, Honestly, I think it'll ruin it.
Go on, because
Like tech, like if you're talking the arts and entertainment, it's and creative thought, it's already going that road. Like there hasn't been like if we look at music, because AI is all the buzz now, so all the VCs love it, but AI has been around for 50 years. There's been predictive modeling and there's been
Mm,
uh, digitally created uh, art and music and content for years. And but if we look at when technology really got into the music industry, late 90s, there hasn't been a unique original band um, that isn't canned material in 30 years. You try to find something on Netflix that's unique and interesting. It's already a canned formula that is going to continue. Now, I use AI all the time. Like I use Chat GPT all the time, primarily because I'm too like because it's really efficient to answer a question for me, like how to do something.
mm.
But what I'm also finding, which is also very dangerous, is like let's say arbitrary. Well, actually, just because of the launch of the game, I've been setting up a lot of marketing platforms. So I'll Google how do you use Unity ads to set something up, and then I'll find I'll chat GPT it, and it'll come back, and I'll find out that it's actually outdated information because the the information that's being scraped isn't keeping up to how quickly the platforms change, which is fine if it's Unity ads, but it's not fine when it's something to do with people's lives or people's well-being and that sort of thing. I also, as a as an artist, or like not as an artist, as a drummer and someone who really appreciates the creative side of art and literature. Like this isn't part of the Laughing Otter, but I'm writing a novel. Not because of the outcome. I love the process of writing the novel. And when I jam with my mates, we do all our originals. We only do originals, good or bad, because it's not about selling a million things. It's about the creative part
Mm.
of making that music. And I think what AI is going to do, it's already doing it, is it's just bringing everything to the middle and making everything vanilla. Um, which again, it's fine if you're creating some post on LinkedIn, but it's not fine when, especially in today's age, we really need an overhaul in a lot of our ways of thinking
Mm.
around political, economic, social infrastructure and fabrics of that we still live on platforms and philosophies that were were conceived, some of them literally thousands of years ago,
Mm.
that when cities were 25,000 people. And so yeah, they worked then, but we need to really look at them because they're broken. But if everything's being generated with the so-called artificial intelligence, that's just regurgitating information that already exists, and that's the danger. And for someone like, I think we talked about this last time when we first just met each other, my favorite bands would never be created by AI.
Mm.
Like for the music fans who are listening in, like, bands like Pink Floyd, Jethro Tull, if you're Canadian, the Tragically Hip, Iron Maiden, they wouldn't have come out. Led Zeppelin wouldn't exist. You couldn't
Grateful
create Led
Dead.
Zeppelin. The Grateful Dead, yeah, that's funny. I just talking about the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Saw them in Buffalo when I was 21 or something like that. Yeah, that was a show. Yeah, how do you explain the Grateful Dead? There's nothing. There's nothing that you can hang your hat on the why. It's just the collective of the Grateful Dead. And or you mentioned the Beatles. Like, there's a reason none of them had the success as solo artists. It's there's this thing with art and creativity where the uh, the 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 total is greater than the sum of the parts.
Mm.
And
I mean, let's hope.
yeah,
I
for
mean, I
sure.
hope that AI will help create more space for people to, people to engage in that kind of creative world, because I think
Yeah,
that's incredibly powerful and
it's
incredibly valuable for people. And we spend too much time focusing on being efficient and working, and and standardizing things, and actually the opposite is where the joy is. But that's a personal.
well, I'd be a lot more excited about AI, if, well, in technology in general. Like, there's been a real, you can't argue, like the last 30 years, there's been such, technology has just been a huge part of people's lives.
Yeah.
Does anybody work any less? No. Is anybody happier? Is anybody, uh like, have we gone down, like, with all this technology that's supposed to make us all so incredibly efficient? Why are we not down to a 20 hour work week or a 25-hour work week? Is AI going to do that? No. Well, the only, I was thinking, because I was trying to work the economics in my head, and I'm like, if all this efficiency is created, but yet everybody's still working, what happened? Well, basically, the amount of money that gets extracted at the top has just gotten larger. That's the only difference. The meat grinder is the same. It's just at the end, the sausage at the end is just larger for the person who's taking it home, which is the handful of CEOs and and shareholders. But for everybody else, we're working just as hard. We're just feeding that
Yeah.
sausage grinder with more meat.
Yeah. Which reinforces your point that you made earlier on about focusing on doing things that make you happy. Jeff,
Yeah, for sure.
thank you for. I mean, I always find it interesting when we speak. I mean, I'm jealous. I think you've got a great job. I love the idea of working in your industry. I'm not sure I'd be very good at it, but I think it's a great job. And thank you for sharing your perspective on that world, and what it's like to do something at that scale. I mean, I really appreciate that. It's been fascinating. So, thank you very much. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, well, thanks for chatting with me, and Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best.
Cheers, Jeff. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.